Hello, this is Juliet Yelverton here from Glastonbury, Healing Water Sanctuary, and I've just finished this weekend the Healing Birth Wounds workshop, Healing Birth Wounds Trauma, and it's been a really powerful weekend, and I'm really excited that out of that weekend has come a new connection from me in Olga, who's here to speak with me about her experiences of twins, womb twins. Olga attended the workshop and she came for a very specific reason of self-healing in connection with her womb twin experience. Yeah, so Olga, you're running a conference in Dublin, I understand.
Yes, I am, yeah.
And the conference is called what?
The conference is called Womb Twin Conference Dublin.
Okay, and the dates for that?
The dates are the 17th and 18th of October.
Okay, so on the 17th and 18th of October, many people have the possibility to attend a very informative conference on something that perhaps you haven't thought about before, but may be very important for you to consider. A womb twin is a twin that has been there in the womb alongside you, but died before birth, and it's actually a very tragic circumstance, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So it seems that this is a very common occurrence, that there are not just one of us in the womb, but two or
three or multiples.
Yeah. So how frequent does this happen?
Well, Charles Baclage reckons there are 1 in 8 people who are womb twins in the world.
1 in 8?
1 in 8.
Worldwide?
Yes.
Yeah, so people throughout the world, there's this frequency of 1 in 8, possibly of you not being a single pregnancy, you not being the only person in your mother's womb. And it seems that when that happens, it's really distressing, because just the same as in life, that you lose your brother or your sister that you're twinned with, that actually you're really close with. And
That's right.
It's really deeply painful, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the smaller the fetus, the bigger the impact on the survivor.
Yeah.
I lost a co-joined sister at 3 months, and I lost a brother, I reckon, about 5 months.
So there were 3 of you.
So I was a triplet.
Ah.
So very traumatic, because the smaller, the fetus, the more traumatic the experience is.
Yeah. So when an embryo is very small, it's very conscious. We're very conscious when we're tiny, but also we're extremely vulnerable. So what happens to us then has a bigger impact on us later in life. So to lose your twin at such an early stage of 3 months,
yes,
is devastating. And I think that was your experience, wasn't it, Olga?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And I from the age of 7 and 10, I didn't know what was happening with me. In Dublin, I coloured everything in purple for 3 years.
When you were a little girl?
When I was a little girl.
Yeah.
Started at 7, and I didn't realise what was happening.
No.
Yes. So about 30 years later or 40 years later, I was told that it was actually, I was grieving. But I didn't realise what I was grieving.
So you were really sad when you were a little girl?
I was, yes.
Yeah. Really sad, and nobody knew?
Nobody knew, nobody had any idea. No.
And how long was it before you discovered what the problem was?
Well, I found wombtwin.com, which is a non-profit organisation based in St Albans.
All right.
Who the funding for the conference is going to in October. I found Womb Twin in 2009, and Althea Hayton, as you mentioned, was the founder, and I have trained with Althea, and Althea who was also a womb twin herself.
So it was very lucky that you found that connection.
Oh, it was a blessing.
And was it like a real enlightening moment?
Yes, because everything fell into place.
Yeah.
I knew why I did things, and that.
Yeah.
So some of the symptoms of womb twins are left-handedness, ambidextrous, hoarding. So if anybody out there have any of these symptoms, something is not right. You buy things in twos, you just don't feel the same as everybody else. That's really the core of it.
Yeah, I have worked with other people with prenatal trauma resolution, and this has been an issue, and the amount of anguish is really extreme when there's this sense of loss.
Yes, that's huge.
Incredible sense of loss in your life, and you don't know why. It's like everything seems to be okay, but it's just this emptiness and loss around something.
That's right. And anybody you meet, you set up nearly your life for them to abandon you. It's a pattern. Sure, they're not going to stay. Sure, why would they?
Yeah.
Because your twin went.
So that's this incredible thing. It's not just that there's the loss of the twin in the womb, but that you were there doing something you were coming through, embodying together, and this experience of there is a life ahead of us together.
Yes.
And it feels like, it brings up feelings like, why did they leave?
Exactly, and it brings up survivor guilt for the person that lives.
Yeah.
They can't, they don't feel happy about living, so they sabotage a lot of things in their life, like they eat too much, they drink too much, they gamble, because they want to be with, a lot of womb twins I have worked with want to be with their twin. That's like Elvis Presley was a twin, and look what Elvis did near the end of his life. His twin lived, but he just lived, I think, for about a few hours after I don't know how long, but he didn't live that long. And Elvis later on in his life wanted to be with his twin, and that's why he sabotaged himself.
So incredible anguish. So if it happens that you're listening to this video and you have experienced really intense feelings of why am I here, or life is worthless, it could be that it's worth investigating. Really. And I understand, Olga, that you run a helpline for people?
Yes, I work in conjunction with wombtwin.com. And people send me emails, or people from around the world send me emails if they have any questions around being a womb twin. They could have been conceived through IVF, and they would also have been, probably more than one in the womb. They would be aware, obviously, that there were more than one in the womb. But if people have questions and they're not sure, if their mother is alive, they can ask the mother, did you bleed through pregnancy? Did you have a miscarriage? If anybody has a cyst or something, that could also be a sign that they had a womb twin. Yeah.
So you had this anguish, and you started to do this journey of discovery, and then you found out that you were a womb twin, and then you started to do the work in supporting others. And then this weekend you chose to come and do the Healing Birth Wounds workshop with me.
Yes.
So what was it that led you to do that piece of work?
Well, the timing was absolutely perfect for me, and I knew that I had to do the work myself if I'm going to help other people. So I was 3 months early, I was 3 months premature, and this pre and perinatal work that I did with Juliet was absolutely crucial for my healing, and it was transformational and empowering, and it shifts the feeling that you feel before and after.
So a lot of people think that to heal trauma you have to go into the experience, and it's really distressing, and that it's necessary to go through into these really deeply painful places. But the reality is that you might touch in on that for a moment, but actually the work is about shifting, and repatterning.
Yes.
And you found it was empowering, the work that you did, because you didn't really go so much into the anguish. You touched into it.
Yes.
But then we did other work. Yeah, how was that for you, the work that we did?
It was amazing, because it as Juliet says, it's just a change in how you look at things. So in other words, it goes from being negative to being a positive.
So you had very big challenges around birth, being a very, very, very premature baby.
Yes, plus the loss of the two before birth.
Yeah, so a very, very complex prenatal history. And at the end of your experience, it felt like it was reshaped and very different. And
absolutely, 110%. It was exactly what I needed at exactly the right time. And Juliet and Julia, I couldn't recommend highly enough. and we all worked extremely well together as a group, and we all knew what everybody needed at any given time. And Juliet and Julia are very, very intuitive, and they also knew what we needed at exactly the right time, and they're pioneers in the work that they do, and I'm really blessed to be here with Juliet now today.
Well, I was really, really touched by the trust that everybody had in the group, and it's important when you're doing this work to build a strong container of safety.
Yes, crucial.
Yeah.
Crucial.
And the work needs to go very, very slowly and in a very focused way to build that trust. I mean, considering the intensity of what people were going through, it was incredible how we all worked together and actually managed to hold that container.
Yeah. And
incredibly powerful things happened.
Yes, it was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah, and I'm blessed.
So it's like when you think about prenatal trauma, people perhaps wouldn't consider that that we would have any awareness of what happens in the womb, but actually it's very fundamental, isn't it? That like what happens in your prenatal life can actually deeply impact the rest of your life.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's crucial that people, find out more about their prenatal experiences, because it shapes everything that you do in life.
Yeah, because it's so a sense of profound loss, for instance, can happen at conception, where you lose your identity as the egg as you transform and unite in conception to become an embryo, and that feeling of loss can haunt you for the rest of your life, the same as losing a twin can haunt you. But there are many patterns that happen in this prenatal journey that set the atmosphere for your life later on. Many different things that can happen, and the nature of trauma is that one trauma builds upon another, and it becomes much more complex to heal after we've had these complicated histories. So by actually addressing these early traumas and healing them, then you really significantly change.
But what transformed my life was actually realising why I did everything.
Yeah.
That to me was the key. Like, why did I buy things in twos? Why was I different to everybody else? I was through Althea's guidance and help, I realised that I am not alone, because a lot of womb twins actually think that they are alone. They think they're crazy. Because nobody understands them, because it's a hidden grief.
Absolutely.
So I'm here, and Juliet is here to help people with this hidden grief. And the fact that I actually found out, I had a name to what was wrong with me.
Yeah.
Just, it just was marvellous.
So that really significantly helped you once you made that understanding.
Oh, yes, and now I can help other people.
Yeah. And do you know what? There are other issues that happen that cause an enormous amount of pain in the womb. I think you were mentioning about people whose mothers had attempted to abort them.
Yes, that's right.
And that leaves people very, very
traumatized.
Very traumatized, extremely unsafe.
Yes.
It's extreme damage to them, damage to the psyche and their ability to relate.
Yes. Well, Althea herself, the lady who founded Womb Twin in St Albans, her mother was a Catholic Irish lady, and her mother tried to abort her brother. She didn't realise there were two in the womb, and Althea thankfully survived. And here, we have her legacy that we're working with now. So yeah,
that's good. It's very cutting edge, isn't it? To the work.
It's very, very cutting edge. Yeah, and I'm really happy to be part of it.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to meet you as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm just so committed. I started my life as a peace activist, and then got into thinking about healing, and now I'm aware that trauma is the root of suffering on this planet, and that if we want to bring an end to the huge problems that we face, environmental destruction, poverty, war, violence, abuse, we have to address the issues of trauma. That has to be fundamental. and that nothing is going to be solving global warming or any of these things until we realise the role that trauma plays.
Yeah.
And I'm actually also participating in a conference in October in Glastonbury. It's called the Peacekeepers Initiative.
Oh, very good.
And I'm also running a workshop on the roots of trauma in conflict resolution, how we need to understand trauma when we're working with conflict resolution. Yeah. And our aim is that this runs every year in Glastonbury as one of the ongoing events that happen here. Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
So, and also, if you're interested in healing birth trauma, prenatal trauma, then there's another workshop happening at Healing Waters with Juliet and myself on the 19th and 20th of September. And we run these workshops regularly, about 4 times a year.
Mm.
And then the other thing is that I'm working at training therapists and carers on understanding trauma and teaching them trauma skills. So this is very, very much part of the whole plan about how to end trauma on the planet. That every
Yeah, and I also train therapists in how to recognise womb twins in therapy as well.
Yeah. So to really address the issues of trauma so that it becomes common knowledge rather than a hidden thing, that people know that what happened to you in your prenatal life is really important, and that we're very sensitive and very easily traumatized, and we need to know how to stop being traumatized, because there are things that we can do differently in our life that will make sure that we're okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Is there anything else, Olga, that you'd like to say?
No, I don't think so.
Have we?
I think so.
Okay. So Olga is now about to get her flight to Ireland, so we have to make sure that she's not late. So
or I'd be traumatised if I was late.
So we have to get you on your schedule. But I'm really glad that we've been able to do this video together.
No, thank you very much.
Yeah. So thank you very much for participating, and if you have any further interest or inquiries, do follow up Olga's work, and also look on the Healing Waters website and you can see my workshops and trainings, and don't hesitate to contact me as well if you need support.
Can I just mention as well, because I'd forgotten, I have a Facebook page if anybody is interested as well, and it's Womb Twin Survivors Dublin. So if anybody needs to contact me or get in touch with me, that's where I am as well, okay?